1000 and the world sports car racer Jamie Davis, who I think is thoroughly enjoying the action today. And we move on to the FIA Super Production Championship, where a man called Tommy Rustad is dominating, but he's going to hope he doesn't make the same sort of start as he made at the last round at the A1 ring. Do you remember?
I do, yeah. You know, you can't afford to be creeping, obviously, waiting for the green light to come on, so he's going to be a little bit cautious about that one today, I would imagine. But, you know, the Nissan Prime Mirror is definitely performing well, and he's put that car in pole positioning again, and we'll see what happens to this one.
BMW's dominating this class. Duncan Huisman, he's on the front row as well. Then Peter Cox, who we'll see later in the FIA GT race. Norman Simon is up there as well, and the Edenbridge cars of James Hansen and Tom Ferrier starting a bit further back down the grid. But it looks like Rustad, well, we can't accuse him this time of creeping, but a very good start, very quick start, heading for the first corner. So the Norwegian driver straight away with the Nissan Primera into the lead. We are riding with the man in second place, Duncan Huisman, the Dutch driver with the BMW. And talking of Dutch, double Dutch it is, because right behind him we have Peter Cox. So the BMW's in second and third. Norman Simon is up there as well. So that's a BMW, but it's a Nissan Primera at the front. And much like he did, although it was a jump of the start at the A1 ring, Rustad is getting away.
Yeah, that Nissan's definitely performing well at the moment, and Rustad, it obviously suits his driving style, and you know, they're making a good combination at the moment. The BMW dominate the field, but the Nissan is out in front.
Now this has been made a wet race. Now just explain the difference to us of a wet race being declared at the beginning and a race which starts when it's dry and suddenly becomes wet, as far as the competitors are concerned.
Yeah, well, basically when they call it a wet race in the beginning, it's because of the looming clouds in the sky, and there's a possibility that it could rain, so that they don't have to stop the race. If it was declared a dry race, then they wouldn't be able to. They would have to red flag it, basically, if it started to rain. Whereas when it's declared a wet race, they can start a race on slicks or wets. It decides what they want to do. But
and if you make a mistake, it's your own fault.
Exactly.
And if you choose the right ones, well, you're laughing.
Exactly.
Rustad hasn't anything to do with tyres. I think it's just to do with the superiority of the combination of car and driver. And that Nissan Primera clearly getting away at the moment. Further back, both the Edenbridge cars. You've had a connection with Edenbridge, have you not?
Yeah, I've driven for Edenbridge back in the Formula 3000 days. Peter Briggs, team boss, runs a great team, and you know, the guys there, they always do a good job.
Gino Morbidelli in the fourth place. You can't keep a good old one down, can you? Formula 1 at one stage.
He was indeed, yeah.
Rustad, the man who still has the lead of the race. We are with Peter Cox. We'll see him later on Ferrari, in the Ferrari, which
that's right,
of course dominated in the last round. And that's it. Well, it's a pretty good shortcut across the circuit there, but slowed down a little bit by the kitty litter. Two Edenbridge cars are running fairly close together, but be it at the moment not really able to make an impression on the battle at the front. This man is the man at the front. And it's the Norwegian driver, Tommy Rustad. Bitterly disappointed at the last round, to be penalised, accepted that he had been creeping. And looking there, there's I think that's Gino Morbidelli in fifth place at the moment, behind Norman Simon. And behind him, Paolo Roberto. Oh, they're getting a little bit closer now. I think that's it, deceptive from the camera angle that we have there. And in fact, Morbidelli has gone past Norman Simon. That is the leader. And the Nissan Primera, at the moment, dominating proceedings in this super production race. Number 2 rounds of the championship, 4 races still to go. Estoril and Jarama, as Gino Morbidelli has a look at Peter Cox. And our weather people, and there's computers working on the weather. It's very much similar in many ways to Formula 1, as they pay lots of money in Formula 1 to predict the weather and won't tell you what it's going to be like from team to team. So they say we pay for that knowledge and we're keeping it to ourselves for our advantage. Well, I can tell you, we've nicked a word or 3, and Jamie Davis knows a person or 2, and it looks like rain, doesn't it?
It does indeed, yeah. I mean, it's the clouds are looking blacker and blacker, I can see, as they go down the pit straight, and you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see some rain coming out of the sky pretty soon.
Duncan Huisman trying very, very hard to get on terms with Tommy Rustad, but while he does that, he's got to be conscious that Peter Cox isn't too far behind, and Peter Cox needs no reminder, because there's a black and orange image firmly in his mirrors, and that's Gino Morbidelli. And Morbidelli would love to get onto the podium. Peter Cox would love to get onto the top step, but he's got to get past Duncan Huisman, and he's got to get past Tommy Rustad to do just that. And on the far side of the circuit, it is starting to spit just a little bit, but we've seen a lot of that. And the tyres, of course, warm. It doesn't matter if it's just spitting, does it?
It's not so bad now, especially with the saloon car compared to a single-seater. It doesn't really affect it so much. So, you know, it needs to be a substantial bit of rain on the ground, really, before it starts making a big difference.
So Peter Cox we're aboard with now. And if anything, Duncan Huisman starting to get a little bit away from him. So the gaps are starting to open up. And right at the front, it's still Tommy Rustad, and if anything, Cox has eased a couple of car lengths away from Gino Morbidelli. So it's Nissan Primera from BMW, from BMW, from BMW, from BMW.
Looked a little bit wetter actually then going into the chicane. I could just see a little bit of reflection coming off of the headlights of one of the BMWs. So there could be a possibility that there is some more rain coming down there.
I think your old Edenbridge mates having a right battle there a little bit further back. James Hansen, who was the quicker slightly in qualifying than Tom Ferrier, but they're having a battle further back, and they've got a few other people to contend with as well to try and climb up the grid.
See the reflection there coming off the lights. These conditions are so difficult to you know, to control with the car. You don't know what's going to happen the next time you go around the lap when you come to each corner. It could be wet, it could be dry. You've just got to take that gamble, hope that you don't go off.
The sort of thing you complain about is Spa, but, you know, the Nurburgring isn't a million miles away from Spa, is it?
Exactly. I mean, we've seen that over this weekend so far, that at one place on the circuit it can be wet, and then the other place it's still dry, so makes it very difficult to know exactly what to do.
Jamie, you ever been caught out there?
It does happen, yeah.
Have you ever been? No, of course, it wouldn't be admitted anyway, would it? Jamie Davis, my co-commentator. And that is Duncan Huisman, who is trying to get after Tommy Rustad, but Rustad seems to be very much in control at the moment. Of course, second and third place, very, very important, because Tommy Rustad hasn't had the best of point-scoring opportunities, and it's really Huisman and Cox who are in contention for the championship, isn't it? So maybe they're quite happy for Tommy Rustad to go and disappear and have a little play on his own at the front. But for Cox, it'll be important that he gets past Duncan Huisman. So this is where the real race is for the championship, and Cox has got it to do. He's got to try and get on terms with Huisman. Yeah,
with regards to the championship, then they're going to be concentrating with each other, but I'm sure they're not going to be happy about the situation with Rustad pulling out into the lead. At the end of the day, they're race drivers, and every race driver wants to win, but at the moment it doesn't seem like they've got any answers for this Nissan.
Tommy Rustad with the fastest lap, just under 55, 154.942. And you know, his pits will be telling him what the gap is behind. He'll be happy just to keep that gap just about the same. If he can ease it a couple of tenths. And we are riding now with Tommy Rustad. And for anyone that just might have joined us, you can ride too with the voice of Jamie Davis. Takes a little around the circuit.
Yeah, we can see there on the dash. It's just moved away, but on the onboard camera you could see the dash there, see what gear position he was going in there. It's just going down the back straight now, going through the flat right-hand corner, and then coming down, braking into the Vidal chicane. Just hard on the brakes here, about the 100-metre board. Just slowing the car down. Very easy to lock a wheel there. Use plenty of the curve going over, and then just back on hard onto the power again, coming out, and then going into the pit corner. See him back down the second gear, going in here, and then hard on the power, trying to get the exit, leading onto the pit straight.
And you know, for anybody who's a sort of boy racer out there, who goes rather stupidly sliding around roundabouts and goodness knows what else, can you just say a word or two about the limited amount of movement? It doesn't look like somebody trying to hang wallpaper in a wind, does it, inside the cockpit?
No, it's a little bit different to a road car. I mean, perhaps these cars have got a little bit more lock on them than the Super Touring cars, but the biggest problem when these chassis do tend to go sideways, there's only so much lock that you have, and then once you've gone past that situation, the car's going to spin. With a normal road car, you have a lot more lock which you can wind on and control the slide, but with these, once they go so far, you're off.
You don't want to be sliding too much in a normal road car. You'd never do that, would you?
Not at all.
Absolutely not. But I'm also referring to the fact, the smoothness of it all, as we now are on board with Peter Cox.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to be smooth with the car, really. You can't afford to make the car go sideways too much, because you're going to, every time the car goes sideways, it's scrubbing speed. So that's then going to make the exit of the corner, you know, very slow, and then you don't carry the speed onto the next straight, which ultimately is going to hurt the lap time.
It's raining less than 5 kilometres from the circuit, and that could change an awful lot of things. Again, we're on board with Peter Cox, his immediate target. He's in third place, is Duncan Huysman, and they're looking to try and move up another place is, well, our old Grand Prix racing hero, Gianna Morbidelli, always one of the nicest of guys. And we've got there Tom Perrier in sight for a moment, just about to make a move to move himself, I think, from 14th up to 13th place. But then again, that is Cox. Looks quite bright at the moment in places, but in other places quite dark.
Just makes very... Oh, he's got a spinner there. Obviously, it is getting greasy in places, but like we said earlier, some places are still dry, some places are getting slippery.
That's Stefano Gabellini, or Gabellini even. He's collecting some mud on his tyres as well. And the number 5 car, which is, of course, Gino Morbidelli. And Morbidelli having his own go at pressurising at the moment. Norman Simon is not too far away from that battle. And how does it all conclude? Well, we'll find out right after these. And I can tell you that rain that was threatening, it's no longer threatening, it's arrived. And now we've got Peter Cox. You can see it on his windscreen there. Already he's started to get nearer to Duncan Huysman. They've got the red and yellow flag to warn them there. Well, the windscreen is warning them enough anyway. Now, can Cox get a little bit nearer to Duncan Huysman? It's BMW to BMW, but right at the front, it's still Tommy Rustad that is leading. He's out of our picture at the moment, but 3 laps to go, and the rain is still coming down, quite slippy, I'm told, on the far side of the circuit. Some parts of the circuit, it isn't even raining, and that gets you into this lottery situation.
Yeah, I mean, at least on the dry bits, they're going to get some heat back into the tyres again, but...
There's some heat on here, and that is Cox, and he's having a real look there at Duncan Huysman, and you get the feeling there's not an awful lot that Duncan Huysman can do about it. Cox really asking the question now. Huysman tries to make himself very wide indeed. Cox trying to set himself up for the move. There's just 2.5 laps remaining. And all of a sudden, Huysman, who must have been feeling okay, I can't catch Tony Rustad at front, I can't catch Tommy Rustad, I've got second place. That is by no means certain, because Peter Cox is after it, and Cox is looking like that he might get it, unless Huysman can keep himself as wide as that. They've battled with each other throughout the season, clean and hard, but it is slippy out there. And it's also a question of, you know, I might gain a place, but I might lose 10.
It's a big problem. I mean, there's no doubt that this is the battle of the race. With these circuit conditions now as well, I mean, it's so easy to make a mistake. I mean, this part of the circuit now is by far wetter than on the other side, and, you know, so easy to lock a wheel now when you're coming into this, especially when you're trying to fight.
Cox looking, saying I'm coming, giving the perception of massive pressure. There was a tap there. They're doing their best, both of them, and again Cox comes again to see if he can get down, but it's the inside line that's just held there. Oh, but he's gone very, very sideways indeed. But can he get the power back on Huysman? He leaves not a lot of room for Peter Cox, but Cox didn't need that much room, because he's through. Huysman trying to get the power down again towards the end of the straight. It's not over yet, this battle, is it? And it looks as if he might get it back again. Can he hold on to it, Huysman? Absolute battle royal, they don't touch, but I mean, you couldn't have got much paint in between the two of them. And that's Cox now again behind Huysman. Less than 2 laps remain. It's suddenly come into an absolute battle royal. And of course, there's people waiting behind them to see if this ends in tears. Huysman from Cox, BMW from BMW. If you're a Nissan Primera fan, don't worry. Tommy Rustad is at the front, but these two battling for vital points in the championship. Huysman still from Cox. tight corner coming on the left-hand side. Cox trying to find and line himself up to slip below on the inside as they go outside that corner first of all. Now can he hold on to it? Cox there, Heisman, he's forced his way through, and whether Heisman can come back, I do not know, but Cox has got his way through into second place. Great battle.
Yeah, for sure. Not easy in these conditions at the moment, and Heisman there, you could see on the onboard camera when you were with Cox that Heisman's car is moving around a lot at the rear. He's got a lot of oversteer, and he's fighting that car all the way to the flag. Great
credit behind them too, I can tell you, for the leading under 25-year-old driver Norman Simon. With his BMW, the German is in 4th place. He's fought off, at least for the moment, Gianni Morbidelli.
Yeah, you could just hear then on the down change as he was going into that corner that as he's letting the clutch back out, it's trying to lock the back wheels up on the car. That's just purely because of the grip, where it's now raining, and it's locking the back wheels and the juddering of the gearing.
But there's no problems right at the front for this man, Tommy Rustad, who will have only benefited from the battle between those in 2nd and 3rd place. And this is Peter Cox. He's got a job to do in the Ferrari that we will see later on in the programme. But at the moment, he's done his job on Duncan Heisman. But Heisman also is having a look. It's not over yet. Duncan Heisman clearly having a look, and he's got through. And now, can he hold it there? He has the inside. They're going past where they line up for the grid. Cox now tries down the other side. Oh, what classic stuff. And that is right the way down to the wire. And really, Cox and Heisman, it could have been one or the other there. And they're on to the last lap now. Heisman, has he got an answer to Cox? It looked like it was going to be Cox's race as far as the 2nd place was concerned. But at the moment, Peter Cox has got that position. Duncan Heisman, we're on board with him. I'm pretty sure it's what bringing in the best of a real BMW battle. This Primera with Tommy Rustad still leads, but it's far from over in the important battle for 2nd place.
Just looks to me that Cox has just got the rear of the car planted a little bit better than Heisman. Heisman's got a lot of oversteer, struggling to get the power down, and Cox's car is just looking that little bit more smoother, and I think maybe if he can make a little bit of a gap, he will be able to edge out.
On the very last lap, and Cox keeping it together. Heisman trying for all he's worth to see if he can get close enough to have a go, but it's really looking like he won't. I don't know, I said that. He was almost getting near enough to have a try.
I think that was deliberate then of Cox when he was running wide going into the corner. He's just running off of the racing line, which keeps it off of the rubber, and it gives the car more grip.
So Cox feeling that he's got it now. Heisman probably looking in his mirrors as well and saying, OK, you can win this little battle for 2nd to 3rd spot, which might turn out to be a very big battle in the point saga. But the war isn't over. We've got 4 more races to do it. And all 4 of those shown on British Eurosport. And they're to come. But wonder if anyone can best this man. Tommy Rustad, not really in the line of looking for the championship at the moment, but certainly looking to reach the top of the podium after it was denied him, having been judged, and we say he definitely did, of jumping the start at the A1 ring. That, I think, was James Hansen that was off, and there was a battle between James Hansen and Tom Ferrier on a little earlier, and I think that puts young Tom Ferrier into the top dozen with the Edenbridge car. Rustad takes the checkered flag, and let's keep our eyes, it's a little way back from Tommy Rustad's Nissan Primera, to see who is going to have the 2nd spot. Fairly certain it's going to be Peter Cox.
I think it's Peter Cox.
Yes, it is. And Duncan Heisman deciding, well, a battle for all I was worth. Maybe Cox's car was handling that a little bit better.
I think it was a little bit. He seemed to just have that little bit more traction when the rain started to come down, which gave him the advantage. But a great race between the two. Kept it clean, and Cox got the result.
So Tommy Rustad winning it. Cox got the result he wanted, 2nd place. He probably wanted 1st, but 2nd place when he beat Duncan Heisman will certainly do his chances of winning the championship. Absolutely no harm at all. We'll hear from Tommy Rustad in a minute, and we'll also hear from Peter Cox. But are we going to have a wet GT race?
I think it's going to be an interesting one, looking at this weather now.
Jamie Campbell-Walter's got to try from the 10th row of the grid?
I think with a 3-hour race, with these conditions, it's not really a problem. Anything can happen.
It will, and you'll see it on British Eurosport. Here's the man who won it, Tommy Rustad. We'll hear from Tommy in just a moment. He must be absolutely delighted. And Peter Cox, who we saw having a great battle with Duncan Heisman, will bring you his words also. You're with British Eurosport, and don't forget, GT racing still to come. There's Rustad, from Cox, from Heisman, from Simon, from Morbidelli, from Massini. It's in Primera. Right at the top of the page. And Tommy Rustad got the result he wanted at the A1 ring. Just had to wait an extra fortnight. Tom Ferrier, as I said, finishing in 12th place with the Edenbridge car. James Hansen, unfortunately, not finishing.
Tommy, changes were made to the Primera after Budapest, and we saw glimpses of potential 2 weeks ago, but today you really showed what the car's capable of.
Yeah, I think we deserve it today. We have been developing the car all year, so we had also this engine in Budapest, but it was not so good as it is now. So we have been working hard. The team, RJ and Motorsport, have been developing the car with Nissan, so the engine is strong, the car and chassis is excellent. So I'm really happy.
Thank you, Tommy.
Simon Walster, our reporter in the pit road for British Eurosport. And he's going to have a word now with Peter Cox.
Peter, that was another battle that we saw towards the end of the race there with Duncan. That's an important victory over Duncan for you in terms of the championship.
Yes, for me it's fantastic. I mean, it's like a victory. I think Tommy at the moment is in a league of his own with the car. I mean, his car is very fast, and I'm not racing, with all respect, against him for the championship against Duncan. And I must say, today he drove really fair. I mean, we maybe hit a little bit, but this is how it should be in touring cars. And I make a compliment now to him, because I think this is how it should be, you know, and not like it was in the past. So, but I'm really happy, obviously, because it's the best race of the year for me, so I'm really happy.
So Huisman with 114. Cox closes the gap to 7 points. It's going to be very close. Don't miss those last 4 races. You like GT racing, you're going to love what comes up next. It's going to be an absolute battle royal. Remember, the Lister Storm of Jamie Campbell-Walter didn't get into the shootout. It starts on the 10th row of the grid. GT racing coming up in just a moment.